Hey, I'm Mike Ruiz, and I welcome you to Conversations with Tona Brown.
Hello and welcome everyone to Conversations with Tona Brown. I am here with the fantastic Mike Ruiz. And most of you know him for his work as a celebrity photographer and philanthropist, and he does so many amazing things with animals. Welcome, Mike Ruiz. How have you been, Mike?
When did we speak? It was like 4 years ago, right? 3 years ago?
Yeah, about 2.5, 3 years ago,
Oh
maybe.
God, yeah, that whole pandemic timeline is just like a blur. But how have things been? Well, good, bad, ugly, fantastic. I mean, it's been the whole gamut of everything. But mostly good. Mostly good. The pandemic, yeah, was like an opportunity for me to reset and readjust my outlook on life and and perspective about myself and what I wanted and what made me happy and what I was willing to allow in my life and what I needed to get out of my life. So, there's a lot of like adjustments, like little micro adjustments like that occurred during the pandemic. So, and subsequently, they've sort of like taken hold. So, a lot has changed, but not really that much. I mean, my world seems to have like scaled down a lot.
Mm.
It's I'm meaning my circle, just like the energy that I put out, the energy that I put out is probably half of what I was putting out before. And a lot of that energy that you put out is like wasted energy. So
Exactly. I've learned the same thing, especially as an empath. So this is helping a lot of people understand that if you're a highly sensitive person or if you're an empathic person, that we have to preserve our energy. So good for you. Set those healthy boundaries.
yeah, but with that said, I mean, I'm certainly not closed off. I haven't closed myself off, but I am more selective as to where I allocate energy. And being very empathic, I've been doing a lot of animal welfare stuff because I fell in love with a sweet little dog, and she really opened my eyes to you know to um to the need for compassion beyond the human race,
Absolutely.
to all sentient beings. And I think that's sort of like, like if you can adapt that or incorporate that into your life and into your scope of empathy. Having empathy for all sentient beings. I mean, I feel like it really feeds your ability to be more empathic with humans.
Absolutely. Have you always felt that you had that deep connection with animals?
I kind of always was very sensitive. Like I remember being a young child watching National Geographic, and the lion would take down the antelope, and I would like lose it. I would become hysterical, and but it was a circle of life. But I didn't understand what it was, and it was very violent, and it upset me to no end. So,
Right.
I guess on some level, I've always had that empathy. I mean, I kind of call it like my level of empathy is borderline unhealthy. Which is again why I had to like limit where I allocate my energy, because um I'm very quick to give away all of my
Yeah.
power and all of my energy. um
So, well, let's start there too, because this is something that I've had to learn myself, in my spiritual awakening and just in dealing with people in general. What are some ways that you, personally, um, um, set those boundaries, or when do you get that feeling that you know that you have to pull back your energy?
it's a feeling that I've always ignored. It's like that thing in the pit of your stomach where you just know it's not right. Like there's something wrong with it. And being an empath and also coming from a dysfunctional sort of background, like the voice of the dueling voices in my head were telling me, well, maybe maybe you're the one with the problem. So, maybe you continue, give it, maybe you should rise above and, be the better man and go above and beyond. And then, so I've learned to differentiate between those two things, like what is actually warranted, like where my energy is like deserved, and where that the feeling in that pit of my stomach is basically a red flag telling me that I need to pull away from a situation. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's so important, and that takes a little time. I know we're now starting to talk out loud about these things. So many people are scared to talk about them, which is so frightening to me because there's so many of us that walk around constantly taking these things in, thinking that there's something wrong with us. And if I would have heard a conversation like this, let's say like 20 years ago, it would have made such a huge difference. So I want to thank you so much for coming and talking about this. And let's not forget being a masculine embodied person doing this. It's one thing for a woman to talk about it and people think, oh, okay, that's just, you being a woman. But it's something else to see this beautiful, intelligent, masculine and, muscular guy who is talking about being sensitive. And I think that's why I love to share your story with the world. Now, speaking of that, how can we support what you're doing with the animals?
well, currently, actually, I have one right here. I had made sure I had it handy. I shoot this calendar every year. Because there's a crisis in this country with shelter animals. This country has normalized discarding and disregarding sentient beings like on every level. Like people will get dogs and cats and pets, and they just like cavalierly get tired of them and like ditch them, and they don't realize that like that's it's unfortunate this country's normalized that, because it's basically that's kind of like borderline sociopathic behavior, where you completely lack the empathy to understand that there's a living sentient being that has the same sort of like emotional sort of intelligence, um, you know, on a lower scale than a human, but they have emotional intelligence, and to disregard them and just like abuse them. And anyway, so it's a very disturbing and unsettling thing that's going on in this country. So I created this calendar where it's fluffy, and it's like hot guys and cute puppies, and but I bury the message in it. You know what I mean? So like on the back of it, I talk about like the crisis in the country, and how people should consider that they're dealing with sentient beings and not be so cavalier about just disregarding them and neglecting them. And so that's the project that I'm working on now. So I'm heavily promoting that.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's
Yeah, I,
available.
I definitely need to get my copy. Everyone else who is listening and who will be watching, please support this man, because one of the other things that I love about you is that you've been doing this work for a long time. So this isn't like some gimmick or something that's new, or even that you just had this awakening all of a sudden. You've been doing this work for a long time, and we have a lot of mutual friends, whether you know that or not, that are in industry and without, that have always told me that you were the real deal. And I want the whole world to know people who are the real deal, because there's so much fakeness and so much craziness going on right now that I want people to know. And that's why I teamed up with Uptime app, so that we could get the word out to their 11 million subscribers, and also to start talking around the world about these things and the needs that we have. Now, how were you feeling after this election?
It was devastating. It was, my heart sank, and all of my worst fears sort of like were spiraling around my head. Um, and then it kind of dust kind of settled, and I mean, all we can do is forge ahead and continue what we've always been doing. And I'm not. I've never been, I mean, I've always been, clearly I've always been an activist. I've always been, very vocal about advocating for every marginalized community. And, uh, but I don't do it in like a really kind of sort of aggressive act up kind of way. Like I just do it by, unfortunately, I'm in a profession where I have a platform where I can celebrate queer excellence constantly. And
That part.
that's my advocacy, and it continues to be my advocacy, and I'm not going to stop doing it. And certainly this election is certainly not going to hinder me, so they're going to have to come and arrest me or
That
something.
part. That part right there. I mean, I've taught this people. You have the gloom and doom folk or whatever. I don't allow that energy here. But what I will say is that one, we've never, and I've said this before, for this season, we've never been privileged anyway. We've always had to fight. And if you are a minority, you had to quadruple fight. And so now what is the blessing of this election that I see is that we've woken up so many people who, because of them using our terminology, I think it's a double-edged sword. Now we've woken up all these people who just kind of thought we were existing and, even sharing, some people just felt that we were doing so well and that it was never going to be a fight anymore, that we had arrived, and I've always been looking at people like, y'all do realize a lot of this stuff is new, and there's a whole group of people who don't like what we do. Even when I go around and I speak at colleges and universities, one of the messages that I have to say to them, which of course some people are like, "Ooh, they don't like," is that everyone is not going to like you, y'all. I'm sorry. Those who have read my story, please read my book, Tenacity, the Tona Brown story. You will see I've had come from a dysfunctional family. I have had close friends, business colleagues, and everything that have stolen from me all kinds of carrying on. But you cannot let that stuff keep you from going to where you want to go. And we can't allow this man and his agenda to keep us from where we're trying to go. Keep sharing the positive things. Keep sharing the things. One of the things that I do on my platform is I share all of the Democrats who actually got elected, all of the blue governors. Keep sharing the things. Keep letting people know what they can do to help as well. And that's why I have you on here. We need to
Well,
support you more
yeah,
as
well,
well.
and that's a really good point that you make about the struggles that we all have constantly in our lives. You know what I mean? So like this new thing, like people are forgetting, like like they literally are having, like people have health issues, and people have interpersonal relationship issues within their own families and within their own queer relationships, and there's turmoil constantly. Like life is just filled with turmoil, and how you choose to react to it is what defines you as a person. And this is just another thing. You know what I mean? Like it was oppressive at first. It happened. You're like, oh, your heart sunk. But the next day, like, you know what? It's another thing. It's just another thing that we're gonna have to process and plow through, and we always have. I mean, we're still here, we're still kicking, we're still thriving, and that's the key. And you know what, the other thing too, like I feel like it's really important for people to take responsibility for their authenticity and for their mere existence. Do you know what I mean? Like people, a lot of people victimize, like you become, like allow themselves to become victims by these external circumstances that, I mean, you vote and you do what you can, but at the end of the day, this is what happened. So you can't succumb to being, destroyed by it. You have to you have
Exactly.
to take
Exactly.
responsibility for your existence. And that's
And
that's what people like you and I feel like we do, is like I don't I'm not gonna. So I never take anything lying down, but I'm not like, oh, I'm not going to be marching in the street with placards. I'm just going to keep celebrating queer art and queer, excellence, and just continue being like the biggest effing queer on the planet.
okay, letting them have it. Okay,
Uh,
like if that's anything I learned throughout my whole journey, it has never been easy. So, but also we have to say something about faith. I feel like there's so many people, and this is not about religion. This is just having hope and faith that things are going to get better. But but putting a call of action to that. Okay, you see what can happen, you see what is going to happen, you see what happens when we sit out from an election, you see what happens when we don't educate our friends and family to the best of our ability. Some people are just not there yet. You know what I mean? But you have to have faith that things are going to get better. And especially for some people who consider themselves to be spiritual and religious, where is your faith? If you're calling me and you're like, it's doomsday and it's like, wait a minute. You're supposed to be walking with your head up because you know you're on the right side of history. You know that you did everything that you can. You took a busload of people to the polls. You did whatever you could do. We cannot help all the evils and craziness that goes on in the world, but we just have to be ourselves. And what I'm so proud of people like you, the people that I'm going to be sharing with the entire world, is that you all manifest that in the work that you do. If no one has had a chance to go to your website, what is it, MikeRuiz.com, please go to his website and see the magnificent art that this man creates. It's a divine artistry. Okay. And I'm going to say it because I know you too humble
Thank
to
you.
say it. Okay. I'm going to say it. It's a divine artistry. There's some people that just take a photo and it's like, oh, that's cute. And then there's Mike Ruiz. My-
Well, that's really, I really appreciate that, and I what I have to say about how I approach my work is that it's always kind of been hopeful, and it's always I feel like I feel like it's aspirational and not and I don't do it like consciously. It's just subconsciously, and I think that speaks to like my hope and my faith and that things are going to be okay. And
Mhm.
whatever don't have control over to make things okay, I can do through my work. So you know what I mean? So I can create like very hopeful and positive imagery, and that's really helpful to me, and hopefully it's helpful to other people. And I mean, I know it is because people reach out to me all the time and say, like, oh, you photographed this person, and you did it in a way that kind of really celebrates them, and it was very inspiring, and so I mean, I always appreciate those messages more than like, oh, that's like
Right.
a well composed photograph. I appreciate that it touches people in a way that kind of kind of elevates their state of mind.
Yeah, well, where can we see some of this artistry now? I know last time we talked L'Officiel or what however you say
Well,
that.
yeah, L'Officiel fashion book, Australia and Monte Carlo. I'm the creative director of, but I also co-own my own magazine called Photo Book Magazine now. So that really like, so I'm the creative director of
I
the
want
one.
to be in it.
Oh, you will, you
I
will.
want to
Well,
be in
well,
it so bad.
our whole thing is about celebrating all this stuff. It's about celebrating diversity, inclusivity, and even like at the ethical treatment of animals. Like it's all and sustainability. Like it's all like very positive messaging in what we do. And we always feature people who are doing all sorts of like moving and shaking, like in every capacity, in like marginalized communities and in the art community, and then you're like the pinnacle of a combination of all of those things.
Oh, thank you. I would love to. I have always been a huge fan, and just to be able to do something, especially something that's bigger than us, I'm all about that. I would love to take a part in any way. All you have to do is say, Tona, please be here, and I will be there. And
Thanks
that's
to
how I want
everything.
people to be there for you. We need to support our men more. I keep saying this. I took a pact with myself about 15 years ago to befriend more men, especially of color, and to learn from you all and to hear you all. That's the thing. I want all my feminine embodied people to listen to what these men have to say that are not toxic. Hello, that are trying to do amazing things, that want to uplift feminine energy. Because there's a lot of men out here that are not trying to, y'all. Let's keep it 100. And so, for those of you like yourself, I will do anything I can to support you. Just ask. It's done.
Well, likewise.
So what is next for you? Because I know we're running out of time now.
Oh,
What is next for Mike Ruiz? What are we going to be looking forward to seeing? We know that you have the things with the animals. We know that you're a genius. What's next for you? How can we support you?
I don't know. You can just go to my Instagram page at Mike Rudy's one. I mean, I'm really like I don't have these grandiose like 5 year plans where I'm gonna, I just kind of I mean, it sounds really simplistic, but I go with the flow and things, like. But by doing that, I'm always open to opportunities and stuff. So cool things always come along and happen. And but as far as like, oh, I'm working on this project, that project, I don't, it's all stuff that's in the ether and it's all going to manifest somehow. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see it unfolding.
I love it. Now, could you, since we have 10 minutes, I was just told we have a little more time. Thank goodness. It only said 3:50 on my little timer. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey, learning about yourself as a highly sensitive person? Because I don't think you even know how many people you're freeing up with that part of your journey. So please tell us anything that you found interesting, or even how you found out that you were that type of individual.
I found out because I got involved with somebody who had narcissistic personality disorder, very high on the spectrum, and it almost got to me, but I it didn't. Like I was able to kind of very quickly figure out what was going on and put the
Good
kibosh
for
on it. But
you.
but as a result of that, I started doing a deep dive into all kinds of like personality disorders and stuff. And then I came across this book called The Highly Sensitive Person, which is not a person, which is not a disorder or anything. It's a personality type. And I guess 20%, which has been studied for decades, and it's an actual like psychological personality type. And I guess 20% of the population are highly sensitive people. And what that means is just they're more attuned to other people's energy and even things like light and noise. And like for a long time I lived in Manhattan. I was like, like I loved it, but then like I still like there was always this uneasiness that I felt. Like I always felt uneasy. So I finally moved to New Jersey. I live in the middle of nowhere,
Hmm.
and and I love it. And
I
I would
love
never,
it.
I love the detachment. I love the quiet. I can step in and out of the rat race whenever I want to. But what finding out that I was a highly sensitive person did for me was that it helped me reframe all of this stuff that I thought was wrong with me. Because highly sensitive
Mm,
people are very introspective and they listen. They're not quick. They're not shy. They're just, they listen. And then when they feel like they want to engage, then they start talking. And that's the difference between, because a lot of people just say, oh, you're so shy, it's so cute, you're so, but it's just like I just feel like I didn't want, there's nothing I wanted to offer to that situation. So I wouldn't say anything. It's only when I
exactly.
feel like there's something that I want to offer and that I have some insight into that I engage. And that's something that I always thought was wrong with me, that I had some kind of social anxiety, that I wasn't able to just freely walk into a room and just be the life of the party. So I was able to reframe that, going back to childhood, where
Mm,
people constantly thought that I was weird because I was quiet and I was shy and introverted, and all these things that are now kind of derogatory. To call somebody shy and introverted is basically a flaw, in people's
mm.
eyes. But I wasn't any of those things. Like I can easily speak to a room full of people if I feel engaged. So anyway, so that's the important thing is that it helped me reframe a lot of different things that for my entire life I thought were wrong with me, but it's just the byproduct of being this personality type.
Yeah, and I really hope that we get to a place now that this information is out there where we can support the youth and others and everyone, but especially the youth who are going to go through those periods where you're feeling like something is wrong with you and that someone, a counselor or mother or father or someone can grab that young spirit up and say, you know what, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. In fact, you have a superpower. And I think that's one of the things that the children need to understand. My mother used to call gay LGBTQ people the children. And it was just a beautiful thing. It wasn't a like a put down. Her and a number of my aunts, oh, you're one of the children. And I think what's beautiful about that, now that I've been doing the work on my inner child and just so much work on myself, is that there is this purity and this innocence and stuff that we have. And then the world comes in and tells you that you're not supposed to be loved by God and all these type of things. And I think that it just takes people off of their path. And what I want to do with this series is let everyone know that you are loved by the divine, Vishnu, whoever you know, Buddha, whoever you believe in, you are loved. And I think if more of us really felt that, there's a lot of decisions we may not have made, you know, or it wouldn't have taken us so far or so long. I'm sorry. It wouldn't have taken us so long to get back on track. And this really goes for my trans sisters out here. You are divine. You are special. Everybody in the whole diaspora, we are special. Think about it. We look at things differently. We look at the whole world differently. We're constantly being pushed down, but everybody trying to copy us. They want to, you're a photographer. You know all these people in fashion and all this type of stuff. Everybody is copying up. So if we were so horrible as they want to make it, then why are you copying us? Why are you copying the way I talk? Hello, somebody. Why you're taking our colloquial languages. You're taking our style. You're doing all this. If we were so horrible, and as far as attraction is concerned, and I'm gonna let you talk. One of the biggest things that I had to work hard on was when I transitioned, I realized that there was so many men attracted to me. Now listen to that, y'all. Rewind. Why are so many of you attracted to me? If I'm so different and taboo and weird and all these different things, why is it everywhere I go? Whether it's at the top of the ladder or at the bottom of the ladder, whether it's in a club or whether it's at the White House, why is it that you are so into me? You know, I have all these men who are so obsessive over me and I've never even met these people. Okay, so you got to understand that the enemy, if we're going to use that language, because you know I was raised up in church, the enemy wants you to believe those things, and a lot of y'all fall for it. Stop falling for these things. It is time for us as a community to support each other more. When I did that Carnegie Hall debut, it was heartbreaking to see how hard it was just to raise $5,000. That needs to stop. When you see someone out here doing something magnificent, you know, and I went around to hundreds of organizations, y'all, hundreds of them. So I don't want to hear, oh, we didn't know. Yes, you did. You knew exactly what I was doing. And a lot of you gave money to people afterwards in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was just asking for 5 to 10,000. Okay, so again, it is time for us to reunite. You already see with our political situation, there's a lot of people that do not care for us, that are wishing us ill will and all that kind of stuff. You got to block that out, and we got to support each other more. And that's why I brought my brother on here. I will always support you. I will always support people that are doing wonderful, positive things, that are shining their light. They're being artistic. They are different or weird to other people. That's fine with me, because I was told that I was weird ever since I was 3 years old. And then you think that stopped me, and it's not going to stop me, and it shouldn't stop anyone else.
Well, all that's all like so powerful, and it all really boils down to a very simple concept that people can't really wrap their heads around is to just love yourself. You know, you hear it all the time, like, oh, that's the key to everything. You know, like the key to is not being loved by God. It's not being loved by a boyfriend. It's not being like none of that stuff. If you're looking for that external love, it's never it's never gonna, you know, because what you're really looking for is some external force that doesn't have the power to fill to nurture your soul that way. You're the only person who can do it. And it takes a lot of like introspection and a lot of reading or whatever, or however you have to do it to figure out that all you have to do is to decide to make a decision. You could do it right now listening to this in this conversation is to decide that decide what your value is and decide that you love yourself, and suddenly all of the other stuff just falls away. And it took me a really long time to figure that out, and that's part of me, like being very selective about where I allocate my energy, because I was putting all this energy in all these places hoping to get something back to fill the hole in me, and it never did. So I figured out, like, I gotta, you know, that I was the only one who had the power to you know, to kind of feel that. And it's as simple as making a decision in your brain to say, I have value and I don't give a rat's, you know what? If you don't think so, if you like people down in Mississippi or Alabama or whatever, if you don't think I have value, I don't give a, you know what I mean? And that's
That's it.
that's it. That's really it. And you
Yeah,
don't have to be,
it's literally the secret to life.
it is, and you don't have to be militant about it. Like, it's not about being angry and militant, like, I don't give a shit what you think, and I don't, it's not about that. It's about letting go of the need for that acceptance from people who are never going to give it to you.
Mm, ain't that the truth? But brother, let me tell you, thank you so much for coming on again to Conversation with Tony Brown. I knew you were going to have a word for us. I knew that you were going to share from your experiences something that can help so many people. You know, I'm here with Ruiz. Mike Ruiz, I just want to tell you that I love your work. I want to be a part of it any way I can. I can't wait to be photographed by you one day. I had to
Oh,
get my weight
soon.
together. I've been in the gym.
We're going to turn you out.
Okay, turn me right out. But anyway, thank you so much, Mike, for being on Conversations with Tona Brown. This is
Thank
your
you for
girl,
having
Tona
me.
Brown. I just want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank everyone for their support. And I even want to thank all the people from around the world who have been contacting me and saying how much this show has made a difference for them. This was something that my diva, Sydney Jane, recommended for me to do. And I just went for it. I just went for it. And it actually happened during the worst times of my life. Financially, especially. So I just took a leap and just started doing it. And all of your energy, your positive energy, has helped to keep me going through those dark times. And so I just want to thank everyone. Thank you, Mike Ruiz, for being on this show.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime, anytime. All right, everyone. Make sure that you remember to like, share, rate, comment, however you're seeing this on whichever platform. Be sure to do that. Be sure to support Mike Ruiz. You can go to his website, mikeruiz.com, and please support his calendar, because I'm definitely going to get mine, so that we can help the animals and we can do all the good things and put out all the good juju into the world. All right. Have a wonderful day.